Hey guys, what's going on? This is Sincere with Anon Radio Live and the All Rights Matter show. We have an emergency broadcast for you real quick. We have Brandon Curtis here on the line, and he's down there in Oregon. If you guys have been following us for a little bit for these last few weeks here, you've been staying up to date with all the breaking developments that have been happening on the ground. Brandon is the head of the Idaho Three Percenters, and they are providing the buffer support, the perimeter support for the Bundy folks that are up there occupying the refuge. Brandon, are you on the line with us?
Hey, good evening. How are you?
Excellent, excellent. Now I know we're having some connection issues, and it's a little bit spotty. So, how's your connection there at the hotel?
We're good now. We're on a Wi-Fi hotspot, so if something happens, I'll dial right back in.
Okay, sounds good. All right. So, guys and girls out there, if you're listening, know that if Brandon drops off, he will be back on with us. We have a lot of information here to go over, Brandon. I mean, what's going on? First of all, how are you doing?
We're doing good. Long days, tired, but we're doing good.
Yeah, I imagine you guys are tired. I mean, you guys are up super early in the morning. I know you're going to bed super late at night, dealing with a lot of the paperwork, and you guys have been digging for days now, and just can you give us an idea of what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, the temperament in town as far as the community is really good. More and more people are coming out with support. Supporting what we do. Even just this evening, I had a person that lives here in town saw me in the restaurant having dinner, and he came up to me and he said, "Hey, you're Brandon. Thank you for what you're doing," and shook my hand. And I asked him, "Well, what's your name, sir?" And he goes, "That's not important. I just want you to know that we support you." We're getting that all the time. And it's becoming more commonplace in the grocery store, the gas station, restaurants. So that support is growing daily, and it's extremely important. We are seeing a huge increase in numbers of FBI agents and vehicles. We counted just over 200 new vehicles that came into Burns in the last 48 hours. There's a lot of rumor mill going out there on the social media and media, but that's not true. I am telling you, I've counted them, I've taken photos of them, and there is over 200 new FBI vehicles in this town in less than 48 hours.
Absolutely. Wow. And I just want to say thank you, first of all, for letting us know about that, because there has been a lot of speculation, whether, hey, is this information true? Is it not true? There's conflicting reports out there, and I'm sure there's a lot of good reporters that are trying to do a good job, but when you have a lot of misinformation flying, it's hard to get the facts. So we appreciate you coming on our show and breaking all the facts with us, and and all the digging and the information. And you guys are actually taking the photos. We will be actually releasing some of those photos off of the Facebook fan page that you guys have up, and we're going to be putting up links to your site too as well. So, people across the United States and beyond can continue supporting and continue with the flood of just support and donations that they're giving this far. As a matter of fact, I want to talk about that. As this thing starts to keep getting I know you guys feel the tension. So with the added tension that's going on, what has the support been like in the community? I think it's very important to key in on that. I mean, we're hearing the same rhetoric coming out of Washington now, from people like Rubio and the Oregon, the state governor there. I believe her name is Kate Brown.
Yeah.
Um, what is the support through the community been? If you can let our listeners hear that.
The support through the community has been really, really good. Like I had just said, where people are just telling us all the time how much we're appreciated. We are getting every now and then individual who flips us off as we drive by. My guess that's the crooked judge's brother or something. Every now and then we get that, but
Yeah.
that's very rare now at this point. We are seeing the law enforcement start to posture. They're becoming a little bit more aggressive, arrogant, rude. They're not as nice as they were about 3 days ago, which is another red flag in itself that something's ramping up. So they don't really need to be nice to us anymore. So those are the types of things that are taking place here that we're watching very closely.
Okay, okay, very, very good. Well, you know what? I think the community is just going to keep standing behind you guys, and of course, the rhetoric coming out by the media and places like that. They Everybody has their job to do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so I want to, uh, actually touch in on that added FBI presence there. Now, 200 FBI vehicles is no small, that's not a small number. That's literally a standing army. Um, with that 200 vehicles, what have you guys noticed as far as the tension in the atmosphere around you? Is there an increased presence in harassment? What's going on as far as that? Are they, following people? Are they, jumping out or surrounding people? What are they doing with these 200 extra vehicles? Because obviously, 200, there's probably 200 extra people to go with that. So what are they doing in the area?
Well, if you figure 200 vehicles, some of those vehicles roll two-man units, so we figured they probably brought in 300 additional agents with those 200 vehicles. We were able to see them walking into hotel rooms, getting checked in, unloading tactical gear out of their vehicles, and
Okay.
carrying tactical gear in their hotel rooms. We've been watching this very closely, seeing what they're doing, getting patterns. The other thing is they have been following people around. They've been following us around. They've been following community members around. As a matter of fact, I can't drive anywhere without being tailed by an FBI agent or vehicle, which is fine. But here's the problem: they're doing it to community members. We just got a call right before the show started from a community member who said that an FBI vehicle followed her out to a remote area, her and her two small children, and she was very concerned and scared for her safety. But she was really also pissed off, so she confronted them. And what they said to her was, well, yes, we work for a federal agency, but we can't tell you which one, which is illegal in itself. They have to identify themselves and who they work for, so you have that ability to make that complaint.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that is not appropriate. So she took pictures of their vehicle, and then she told them to take off and get lost, and they did. But that's a community member that lives here in Burns, Oregon, who was in fear for herself and felt like she needed to take action and confront them. And the first people she called was me. She wanted to get that
Wow.
information out there to us because she knows we'll disseminate it out to the public and it's true and accurate.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's exactly why we enjoy having you on the show, because we already know that the information, we seek out is special. It's directly from the horse's mouth, if you will, for lack of better words. So
Right.
we
Yep.
we appreciate, having that opportunity with you guys. Um, I want to touch on something, and ever since the last interview, I've had some requests, and I've had some people wanting to know what's going on with the judge, the sheriff, because there's been some activity as far as Ammon Bundy recently approaching the sheriff and asking, about the FBI's presence in town and things like that. So I want to, kind of get with you guys about this, because I know you guys have been digging. Is there any information that you can give our listeners as far as anything that you guys have found that could, help your position there and take a little bit of the, the grip that they have on this national media spotlight away from them and shine some reality, on the situation?
Sure. I mean, and the first thing that needs to happen is, we're still calling upon Sheriff David Ward to take a stand and get a backbone and take his county back. Okay. He needs to ask the federal agents and the FBI to leave his county, and he needs to stand up, be a man, and protect his community and deal with this. That's first and foremost. Secondly, what we're finding over and over with some individuals that are involved in the county is a lot of corruption. A lot of this corruption is coming from Judge Stephen Grasty. He's been in place here for about 18 years, and we've talked about him before. He rules this community like a dictator with fear and power tactics, which ironically is with power he doesn't even have. And it's really sad. We're uncovering a lot of things that he's involved in, backdoor dealings. We're trying to follow some money trails now and get confirmation on a few things as far as getting some kickbacks and and things like that. Also, a couple of the county commissioners, one in particular, we found some information on him as well.
Okay. And you guys are now. When you confirm the rest of this information, where will you be releasing it at?
We'll put it out on our website. So the Auto 3%, our Facebook page, the Pacific Patriot Network's website, it'll all be out there. Plus, I'll be letting you know immediately so we can get this out on the air as well. But as far as the documentation and those sort of things, they'll be in those locations.
Okay, excellent. That is absolutely excellent.
And we got a few things that we're already able to confirm. Steve Grasty, people need to understand, he's been the judge here for 18 years, a pro temp judge, and he sits on the commissioner with the commissioners as a county commissioner. So it's kind of a unique situation, which is a conflict of interest in itself. We have also found that Steve Grasty sits on, him and his wife both actually, basically every conservation board or committee that there is in the state of Oregon. And these conservation committees have one goal, and that is to turn land into federal land under federal control and restrict the use by ranchers and grazing. And that's the whole goal of these types of efforts in these conservation groups. And it's ironic because what it does, it takes away from what he's here to do. And he's here to protect the citizens of his county where he presides on a bench, and his county is derived of ranchers and farmers. Absolutely.
That is yeah, wow, that's groundbreaking. So why would an individual like that sit on the boards of and committees of places that would want to actually restrict those rights of the very people that he lives in, and works around and deals with every day? So in regards to that, there has been some information that has actually come out, and I don't want to take this anywhere political, but I believe that this is very credible information that actually has just come out today. As far as some of the Clinton Foundation actually being in collaboration and cooperation with the BLM, which is actually a corporation. Do you guys have any kind of views on that? And the reason why I bring that up, with this judge in particular sitting on all these committees, because I want the people to understand that this is how this works. It works with government, corporations, and organizations, and they all have a link. They all have a chain together, and the money flows downward. So, the corporation is going to pay the government. The government is going to make sure they take care of the organization, and the people that sit on these organizations are your county judges and commissioners and sheriffs, and right. So that's how this works. There's a direct correlation of cash, and I want the listeners to understand that. Do you have any kind of input regarding that, and how this we don't want to make it political, but this is technically political and financial, and this is what this is really all about as far as the land and the uranium, the valuable worth of the land.
Well, that's what it all boils down to. Hillary Clinton and the entire administration, they got to have their hands in the pockets of everybody. So that's what it boils down to, and it doesn't surprise me. We haven't had a chance to really dig into that in depth like we would like to, but that's what it boils down to. You always got to follow the money, and land grabs are usually done. And there's a video that was released. I know we touched on it earlier in regards to that video that was released with the BLM employees having their luncheon, and they were talking about how easy it was to take land from miners and farmers and ranchers,
yes,
and how they're getting it on pennies on the dollar. Well, there's a reason why they're doing that. They want the minerals out there for the government, and they're stealing land from people for this reason.
Yes. I think one really notable point of that video, we'll make sure that we share that out too with a link below this video as we upload it on YouTube, but one notable very notable part of that video was the tone of the atmosphere. I believe it's maybe anywhere between 30 to 50 people in that room, and they showed in the hundreds of thousands of acres of the land that they actually were able to acquire through their organizational efforts, and pretty much taking it from the ranchers. And then
that was just for their region. That was just for their little region that those employees worked at.
Yeah, and that's just that one little region, and then that's the hundreds of thousands of acres, and then the number under it was about 5.9 or something like that, and that was the amount of land that was left owned by the ranchers. And I remember their laughters in the video. It was such a, that evil movie like sinister moment of haha, look at what we've done to them.
Right, and it was like 5.96 acres was left of private land in Alaska or some crazy thing like that. The rest of it was government owned.
Yeah, that is just
It's
wow.
sad and it's sickening.
It is sickening. We'll make sure we share that out. Now, so we've touched on the 200 FBI. That's definitely confirmed, and we have the photos of that from you guys. And that is, I mean, that's groundbreaking alone. And the mainstream media, they don't want to report on it, but that's okay. Our listeners, you can get it right here first, and we thank you, Brandon, again. We've also touched on the increase there in harassment. With these extra FBI personnel that are around the area, that their tactics are to ramp up the tension, and as they're ramping up the tension, they put a national spotlight out saying, hey, these people being in the area is causing the tension, when that's not really the truth. It's the fact that they brought in 200 commando style people that are following folks around, that are just taking their kids out to have a nice evening. So
Yeah.
Is there any more updates outside of that, and also some of the Judge Grasty corruption that's going on there, in his dealings with his siblings and other things? Is there any more information?
Yeah. So back first on the law enforcement thing, we are seeing that with the state police, local law enforcement as well. They're posturing in a more aggressive way. One of the guys from my organization got stopped the other day. The reason why they said and we watched the traffic stop. He called me on his Bluetooth so we could hear the traffic stop. I was parked across a parking lot 50 yards away, videotaping it, staying out of the way, obviously way back. And they said they stopped him over. He was actually just passing through here for work. He wasn't even here for the operation. He was just passing through to another town. And they followed him from our hotel and pulled him over. And they said that his right rear tire touched the white line. And, that's not a driving pattern. My background in law enforcement, that's not a driving pattern. And then once the state police officer was done with that traffic stop, he saw that we were watching. So he comes across the parking lot, pulls up next to me, gets out of the truck, and tries to make small talk with me. And I'm a very blunt guy. So I said to him, so this is what we've come down to now, is harassment. And he says, I'm not harassing you. You might be broke down over here, look like you might need help, and I thought you were flagging me down. And I said, okay, well, I'm sitting with my truck running to keep warm. I don't need your help. I didn't flag you down, and you know that. And I called him on it.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And then I asked him a little further about, why he drove through, and he did. He drove through our hotel parking lot while we were sitting out there. And then my friend who is in our organization left to go to work, which is in a town 2 hours away from here. They waited for him. He pulled out. They pulled him over. When I brought that up to the officer, he said, well, you have to understand, you guys have out-of-state license plates. You're staying at a hotel. You could be intoxicated. And I'm here for the public safety of the motorists on this roadway. And I said, now, wait a second. But because we're staying in a hotel with out-of-state license plates, we could be intoxicated. So you're profiling against out-of-state license plates. It's just that's where it's going, and it's really sad. You can't even freely move around this town or this county or this community anymore.
Wow. That's the telltale sign also of someone that's trying to control the narrative and maybe look for something that they're just not going to find. And I don't think they're used to dealing with, organizations that are like this. And this speaks to the true nature of the American that lives within all of us, is we're able to come together when times get difficult. So it's just not the Idaho 3%ers that are on the ground. It's other organizations that are all banding together in solidarity, and they have one voice, and they see the professionalism. They also see the amount of courage, and they see that you guys have a lack of fear. And
Right.
I think that moves them from their stance. It takes them off of their pivot. So,
Well, and it really throws them for a loop because they also know that I lead one of the largest 3% organizations in this country. and my background is also in law enforcement. So that really throws them sideways because I get both sides. I know their tricks. I know the right things to say. I know what they say. Just like I called that guy out, yesterday about that. He didn't know what to do. He looked at me like I was some monster because no one had talked to him that way, and I was very professional to him, but I was also calling him out. So
Yeah.
it's a unique situation that I'm in with my background in law enforcement and leading a patriot organization. So it puts me in a unique situation to be able to move us forward without that fear and knowing we're not to cross that line, but yet be bold.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it gives you a little bit more information and knowledge, and I try to tell people that all the time. As much information and knowledge is out there, you have to take advantage of it. You have to go through experiences in life to be able to, get anywhere. You have to do. So you've obviously done some things in life, and you've brought that experience with you to be able to help your fellow citizens around you. And that's what this is really all about. And I believe that's also what the Bundy Ranch video that was just released is what that's about. If you want to maybe talk about that a little bit, they put out a video, pretty much going around to the ranches, and these ranchers are now starting to stand up and say, hey, we're not going to deal with this anymore. Federal government, we're signing on with these guys. They're going to help us. The federal government, you're not here to help us. You're sucking us dry. And we're done. So now that the Bundys have made such a bold move and they've advanced pretty much their position from just a refuge to other ranchers who feel the same way, how do you feel that that move will? How do you feel that will impact the cause of what's going on?
Well, I think it's definitely a positive thing. It's we went up there and visited with Ammon and the guys up at the refuge today for a little while. We spoke to them with some different strategic ideas and some tactical information I want to give to them, just so they're aware of what's going on down here.
Okay.
And I saw those ranchers coming in. I met one from New Mexico, one from Texas, and what they're doing, they're coming in. They're going to nullify their BLM lease paperwork. They're going to nullify it. They're going to say, we're not going to do this anymore. We're not going to be subservient to the overreach of the federal government. We should be able to graze on our public lands just as much as the next person should be able to hunt on it or have a picnic on it or whatever the case may be. And I think that's great. And that's exactly what needs to happen.
That's what I'm talking about. And isn't that really why we're all here?
Absolutely, that's why we're all here. And that's the thing is, people need to, again, go back and think about, as a matter of fact, on the way out of the refuge today, there was a bunch of protesters out there against, holding signs saying "Free the birds," and people were. It's really odd, actually, Sherrod. There was people wearing duck masks and duck costumes. I've never seen something like this. But what they don't understand is,
I want to key in on that. Hold on. I found some information out about that. Listen, just like we talked about the Hillary information just now, and it's out there. So it's certain guys Google it. I want to also talk about the weird thing that you just saw and seeing people in the duck outfits and things like that. Now, I want people to understand one thing. There's not just government forces that are at play here. There's also other organizations that will get around a cause that's happening that's in a major spotlight. And these organizations, some of them may be valid, but some of them may be sponsored and funded by people that are kind of in partnership with the government and maybe causing an agitation to the situation. So we want to be very careful about what we see on these national news media cameras, what they choose to show us, because it could be members of some of these very rogue organizations. But I just wanted to key in on that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Some of these environmentalist groups are also very extremist, very dangerous. They've known to cause bodily harm and hurt people for the cause or to stand against and oppose a cause. But as I passed by this set of protesters, I just couldn't help but think, you guys are. But let's go back. You're not protesting for the families that lost their generational ranches.
Hey, we're starting to lose you a little bit. Can you repeat that again?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
You're a little bit fuzzy, but go ahead.
Okay, you good?
Yeah.
Okay. As I drove by these protesters, I couldn't help but think, that great, they're exercising the First Amendment right. They want to set the birds free. They want to do these things. But they need to look before that. Why are they not out there taking a stand and protesting for the families that lost generations of ranch land and their freedoms because the federal government decided they wanted to use that land so birds could land? It's just the wake of destruction was left behind. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. As you were saying that, it kind of took me back to another video that I actually saw. There was I guess, a meeting there. I'm not sure if any of you guys were present there. I believe Ammon was there, but there was a meeting that was held, I believe, in the gym, the basketball gym there, and in the meeting, some of the residents were speaking out, and they had very, very strong, powerful positions in the community. Did you guys attend that meeting, or do you know what I'm talking about?
The one today?
I don't believe it was from today. I believe it was maybe from a couple days ago.
Oh no, we weren't at that one.
Okay, and well, one of the positions, one of the, I believe it was a lady, and she was saying, and she got very emotional, and she was saying, we're talking about so much that's going on, but one of the key things that we're not talking about is the people that are being locked up twice. What about the Hammonds? What about
Yep.
the Hammonds family, that are left behind that, have to see their loved ones incarcerated? What about them? Now they have to see their loved ones go through, the corrupt practices of the government, and there's no kind of recourse for that action. And she, hinted towards maybe we're all being a little bit selfish by not, focusing the cause on that. And instead of, worrying about who's, up there at the ranch, we also need to worry about who we need to bring home. And I thought that that was, a good point that she was bringing out, and not to really say that, what's going on at the ranch is bad, but that we should make sure that we keep it guided to, the whole spectrum of everything that's going on. We want the government to understand that it's not just the land. It's not just the value of the land and that the people want the grazing rights, but it's also what you're doing to the citizens that live on the land. They're being locked up, they're being double jeopardized, and we can't forget about the very people that we're fighting for, the Hammonds.
Right. And it's the Hammonds, absolutely, and anyone beyond the Hammonds. It could be the rancher next week, or the rancher next year, or the farmer, or not even the farmer or the rancher. It could be someone with a home in a subdivision where an irrigation district wants to take their yard. I mean, it could be anything, and people need to understand that it's just not limited to ranches or mining. It could be anybody. We have stood against an irrigation district over in Idaho because they wanted to take half of someone's house and their whole entire backyard, and
Wow.
we went and took a stand, and we stopped that from happening. So it could happen right there in the subdivision as well.
Eminent
No, no one's domain. No one is exempt.
That's right. Yeah, eminent domain, and by the federal government, um, is just not a good practice. The federal government taking people's land and property and just deeming it for their own use and telling you what you can and can't do on it. That's definitely a road to tyranny.
Right.
So, listen, guys, I know that you have a lot of work to do tonight, and we have covered a lot, and I appreciate your time again. Is there anything that you want to put out there before we, close up? Because you've given us so much already, but I know as this thing unfolds, we'll be talking more.
Yeah. Let me give you a few of the things that we have confirmed with the judge and some of the dealings he's had, and we'll give you more details as they come out. A couple of things we found out. Judge Grasty was involved in the sage grouse conservation partnership, and that was basically to put the sage grouse on an endangered species list to shut down more land in this area so it can't be grazed on or used, and put it into federal control. He did that with the backing and did that with aligning of several environmental groups. Now, in our experience and the things that we've dug, and we haven't proven a dollar amount yet, but most of the time when these politicians get in bed with environmental groups or align with them, it's because they're getting their pockets lined. So we're going to work on that and see what we can uncover on that. But what's interesting is he's been telling people in the community that he's been standing against the sage grouse being put on an endangered species list, which is in fact a lie. Um, uh, Judge Grasty's brother, Brent Grasty, he actually oversees the scoping department for the BLM, which is in the next county over, but it encompasses this county, the next county over, and the county to the north. And Brent Grasky is responsible for overseeing 4.6 million acres in 3 different counties, including Harney County, where we're sitting right now. It has been shown and proven that he has changed and erased mapping lines through the metadata system in the BLM to benefit whoever he wants to.
So he's literally changed the data, I mean, just on his own, pretty much controlling who gets what land.
Right, absolutely.
Oh, wow, that's terrible.
And he oversees the scoping of that. That's what he does. Dan Nichols is a county commissioner here. Okay, Dan Nichols has received personally in his pocket just over $76,000 for putting conservation on his own personal farm and ranch. Meaning, he's put his own personal farm and ranch into federal control, telling him what he can and can't do with that for conservation reasons, and was paid just over $76,000 to do that. And he's a county commissioner.
And he's a county commissioner.
And he sold out his own property. So how is he going to fight for the people in his county?
Yeah. And he's being paid handsomely as a county commissioner to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
He's going to have to answer some questions about that. And I believe that's really the gist of this whole thing here is, these people that work in our government, whether it be at the local level, I mean, there's some good people, we can probably find at the local level that aren't too tainted. But whether it's at the local level, state level, or federal level, these people, they live a double standard, a standard that you and we cannot live by. If we try to do certain things, we're going to go to jail. And
absolutely. And I don't know if we've talked about it since, but they uncovered a bunch of Indian artifacts in the basement of the refuge building.
No, go ahead.
So the gentleman up there, they uncovered there was a whole bunch of ancient Indian artifacts stored away down there in a basement where it was wet, cold. Mice were nesting in it, eating it, and it was just treated like it was trash. Ancient Indian artifacts of the Paiute tribe. Okay, if you or I were caught with that in our homes, we'd be locked up in a federal penitentiary for having possession of those items, and they are just treating it like it's trash. That's our government for you. What else we found was some documentation. And this is documented. There's a worksheet, and this is just for 1 year, for a season they call it, which I imagine is going to be the summer seasons, and it's called a volunteer worksheet. They had volunteers, and it says right on there, volunteers came to the refuge to work, and they were reimbursed for their time. One gentleman was reimbursed for his volunteer time, if you will, just over $91,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a heck of a reimbursement.
Yeah, for their time. And we have the documentation that shows their full name, address, all their information. And this is a federal government form. So they're reimbursing people. That's our tax dollars just being wasted to volunteers. Now, okay, I appreciate the time people put in. But if you're going to go volunteer, it's just that volunteer. Our government shouldn't be paying someone $91,000 to go put in some work somewhere during the summer season.
Wow. So they're paying volunteers $91,000, to do work on the refuge. I'm writing some of this down actually as you're saying it, because I think that this is just incredible information. And guys and girls, we'll make sure that we have this information linked on our website, and I'm sure you'll have it on yours too. But they're paying these volunteers $91,000. And are you saying that his brother also, the judge's brother, is in charge of changing the data for the amount of acreage that's out there, the 4.6 acres that he's in charge of?
Well, so Grasty's brother, Brent Grasty, he oversees the scoping, meaning mapping and
Yeah.
use and things like that, for a total of 4.6 million acres in his district.
So
Okay.
let me ask you this then. That's what I was alluding to. The brother, he oversees a very large 4.6 million acres is a lot.
Yeah, it encompasses 3 counties.
Okay, so that's a lot of land. Now, when you talk about the government also paying volunteers $91,000, do you think that there's any correlation or any, is this the point where we can say, okay, there's obviously a connection? These federal government people are working with these county level people. Here's the connection of corruption, I guess you could call it.
Oh, absolutely. And to take it one step further, in the documentation that we've seen that's come out of the files that we have in regards to the Hammond case, I saw letters where the Hammonds wrote letters asking for investigations for crimes being committed against them on their property, with either poaching or people setting fires or trespassing. They sent letters to the Oregon State Police. They sent letters to the county, to the Department of the Interior, and all those agencies responded and said, "We're not going to investigate it. It's really not our problem." They were turned down. They were shunned, and there was one person that was always CC'd on those letters, which is Judge Grasty. So my question I pose is, why is a judge in Harney County, Judge Grasty, being CC'd on correspondence between the Department of the Interior and a rancher as the Hammonds? Why? What's his interest in that? Why is he CC'd on any of that information? It doesn't pertain to him. So there's a lot of questions that are rising, and what we're going for is we're going to be able to prove that there was prosecutorial misconduct in regards to the Hammonds, and our goal is to actually get them exonerated and set free.
Wow. And that's breaking information. That's, that keys in, and that hits the nail right on the head. There's your corruption. And a lot of folks think that, oh, well, our local guys and girls that serve in government are for us. No, you have to realize that once they become a politician, they have a choice to work for the people or to work for the interest. And if they decide to work for the interest, that means they're working for that next promotion on the ladder. And
right.
That's what that's what we see is a lot of our local officials are selling out their own people, and they're doing it with a smile on their face, a handshake in the front, and a knife in the back.
Yep, and that's what we're seeing. That what happens to get in these offices. And the other thing too is you look at people like Harry Reid. Before they got into office, they were worth nothing. They were no different than me or you or anybody else out there that's just a blue collar worker, just making a living, whatever the case may be. And they get into these positions as politics and into offices, now they're billionaires. How is that even possible? And how is the American people okay with that?
Yes. It is quite funny how these people that have, some of them never owning a company or anything like that, they get into politics and they become instant millionaires.
It's amazing. And there's only one way to know. There's only one answer to that, and that is the kickbacks, lining your pocket, whatever the case is. Those things should be investigated. Those things are illegal. Those things are a conflict of interest, go against what we the people stand for, and it's just ignored.
Yeah, there's not a single, that I know of. There's not a single poor person in Washington.
Right. In DC,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a single poor person that flies in for their little house meetings and all this other stuff. So, there's a lot of money floating around, and if you want to be a part of the who's who, you're in Washington. I have a very close friend that's actually in Washington, and she lets me know, man, these people in these circles, they have wild lives, and they have pretty much Hollywood rock star lives that just don't show up on camera because they're in D.C. And it's, the good old boys club, so you won't see everything that goes on behind the closed doors.
Right. And that's, you hit the nail on the head. It's the good old boys club.
Yeah.
And usually with that comes corruption.
Oh, yeah. A lot of nothing but corruption. So,
yep.
Listen, guys, like I said, I'm not going to hold you up, and I see, that we're approaching that hour time. So, is there any other updates? I mean, you guys have given us so much. You should see my notepad here. I just have things written all over the place, and I'm sure that our listeners out there, they have, we have some very, very intelligent listeners that have been following this closely, and they appreciate you, and they, a few people have wanted to show their respect. But I'm sure they're writing down notes just as well as I am. So is there anything else that you can leave us with?
No, again, I always put the plug out there for donations. Our teams are here, volunteer, everything's out of pocket, and we always rely on our supporters to get our donations to help us cover our lodging and food and fuel, and that can be found on our website at www.iiipercentidaho.org. Many have donated. I thank everybody out there that has donated, whether it's $5, 10, 20, doesn't matter. Every little bit helps, and that's what keeps our team here on the ground going. We don't have the deep pockets like the federal government. They're using and burning our taxpayer money to fight us, and they have unlimited resources, and we're out here doing this without those resources. So thank you for all those that have donated, and every little bit helps. Oh, go ahead.
I want to key on one thing, and I just, because we didn't cover it, just one thing. It's small, but it's really big. I wanted to ask, and just what is the general welfare of all your guys that are out there? I mean, like, how are they feeling? What's their morale like right now? Because we have people that have been praying for them, wishing them the best, wishing them luck, whatever it is that you do. But people want to show that support. So how are those guys doing?
They're doing good. Everyone's holding up very well. We are working 19, 20 hours a day. When you get into the research side of things, that's what's time consuming. And we have guys that are working on patrols, they're doing observation posts, and they're doing a lot of different things. Our research team is digging deep, trying to pull county records from the courthouse, which obviously is very hard to do here when you're walking the courthouses, which is walking in like the lion's den of the enemy. So we're doing the best that we can. With alternate resources to get the documentation. The morale of everyone is very well. I can say in the last 24 hours, we feel a little defeated with all the FBI agents showing up, but that doesn't deter us. We know we still have more guys on the ground than they brought, so that's okay. So we're just gonna keep pushing forward.
Yeah, and you guys also, you're gonna have truthful outlets like Anon Radio Live and the All Rights Matter show. Look. We don't edit anything, even that little hiccup that we had at the beginning where our audio levels were off, and we apologize for that right now and at the end of the show. But even that little hiccup there, that won't be edited. We give you guys the real. We let you hear everything as it's going on, and it's important that you get that, because that's what's missing out of our journalism. That's what's missing out of mainstream media, is we're not getting the real facts. We're getting the spin. We're getting the story, the official narrative, and things are not always like that, and things are more fluid on the ground. And people like Brandon Curtis and his fellow brothers in the Idaho 3%, and other groups within the Pacific Patriots Network. These guys have the real. They have the truth. So we appreciate you, Brandon, for coming on. We're going to be following up with you shortly. And again, plug that website one more time for us.
Sure, man. Thanks. It's www.iiipercentidaho.org, or you can just Google 3% of Idaho. It pops right up. There's a donation link at the top there. Just click that. Every little bit helps, man. I can't even tell you how appreciative we are for every $5 donation that we get. It all helps.
All right. You guys heard it. You make sure you visit that website. Make sure you guys donate. Make sure once you donate, you share that website out on your social media to your friends and family, and let them know, hey, help these guys out. It benefits us all. So with that being said, make sure you stay tuned to Anon Radio Live. Like us on Facebook. I want to give a shout out to our super producer out there. She's done an excellent job getting us contacts and many, many other things that she does. I also want to give a shout out today to Jeremy too. He actually started his first show today on Anon Radio Live, and I want you guys to stay tuned to the page that we have on Facebook, Jeremy Dieter. a phenomenal show that he had with ABF, all about family. Those guys came on. So we thank you again, Brandon. You guys stay safe out there. Our prayers are with you, and we'll be following up with you very shortly. You guys make sure that you also go to the Anon Radio Live and the All Rights Matter fan pages. We're going to be releasing those photos of the FBI vehicles that Brandon was talking about. So you guys stay tuned, and always stay alert, stay alive.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate all your support and all the listeners out there.
All right, now. You guys have a good night.
Night.